What's up everyone, this is Spooky, and I'm back with another Zenless Zone Zero video. This one is going to talk to you about the various tier lists that I found for version 1.2 on a few strategy websites. And this one's going to help you decide which teams to build and which agents to work on based on the agents currently in your roster. Now, before we get too much into these lists, I want to remind you that the most important thing is that you are the one playing your Zenless Zone Zero account. And that means that you should choose the agents that you like the most, whether it's because of looks, playstyle, or something else, regardless of what I'm about to tell you through these tiers. But let's say you have a few different choices, a few different DPS, a few different Anomaly, and you're trying to decide which one is better or which one you should build first, then this is going to help you out tremendously, and it's also going to give you an idea of the strengths of your overall roster. Now up first, we have a list from Predwin.gg, and what you're going to find with a few of these lists is that they're separated based on the roles of the characters, which helps make things a little bit simpler for you trying to figure things out. Now starting off with the DPS, at the top, this is not really much of a surprise, but the two biggest pure DPS for damage are going to be Ellen, who was the first event character, and Zhu Yuan, who was the second event character. And notice that the two of them have a good similarity in that they charge up, they wait for the stunner to knock down, and then they unload their damage really quickly. They can do damage on their own without the knockdown, but they're very powerful with knockdowns. And because the two of them are two of the biggest damage dealers right now, they're the ones that are heavily pushing this stun into damage meta. Now we also have, as damage dealers, we have other S-rank damage dealers. These are the ones from the regular banner and not from the special banner. We have Nekomata and we have Soldier 11. Now both of these I think are actually a little bit underrated. In fact, I would almost kind of put them both at kind of tier 0.5, but we have them here at tier 1. That's how they're listed. For Nekomata, the main weakness of Nekomata is not that as a weakness at all. She's actually very good. The main problem is that Jane Doe, who's one of the newer event characters, does things a little bit better than she does, and that's why we have her here on this tier, while Jane that we're going to talk about soon is a bit higher. Now talking about Soldier 11, currently until the release of Bernice, she's actually the best fire agent for damage. I don't think there's anybody really fire that's really much more useful than she is. Koleda's great as a stunner, mind you, but as far as pure damage, right now until Bernice comes out, Soldier 11 is the best, and in fact, there's a good chance that she's going to combo well with Bernice, as well as possibly with some characters coming in the future, like Lighter. So you should strongly consider building Soldier 11 if you have her, even though we have her here at the tier 1. Now in tier 2, these are mostly the A-rank damage dealers, and you can kind of pick and choose which one you want based on your account. I find that the most popular is Corin, because a lot of people have extra copies of Corin, but then there's also Anton, who's really good when you shock the opponent, and we also have Billy, who's not too bad as a straight like damage dealer. Out of the three of these, they all kind of have their own value, but if I were to choose, I would probably go for Corin or for Anton, because at least Anton has that little extra stun element to his kit. Now getting into the Anomaly characters, the first one we have is Jane Doe, and Jane is currently one of the most powerful damage dealers period in the game, primarily on the back of the ability to crit on her Anomaly, which is a humongous deal. It makes it that she can do so much damage, and she has, if you have the core skill up, 40% crit already baked into her kit. She's by far the best assault character and the best Anomaly character currently in game. Not only is Jane good in those Anomaly teams, but she's also especially good in Disorder teams. And speaking of Disorder, we have up next Grace. And Grace is excellent. They have her labeled here as a shock and a sub DPS, which makes sense because that's the main usage of Grace right now, especially if you have Jane or also Piper or another Anomaly on your team. The idea behind it is that you want to shock really quickly with Grace, you want to switch to that other Anomaly character, and then you want to cash out the shock ASAP rather than having to beat up the enemy for the full 10 seconds to get all the damage from it. Anyway, there's a good reason why Grace is here in the 0.5 slot. She's exceptional in lots of teams. She can be a main DPS, she can be a sub DPS, and in an Anomaly squad, she's going to do excellent work for you overall, especially with the Disorder damage that she's going to add to your team, whether it's regular times or knockdowns. One thing that's good about all three of these Anomaly characters that we can talk about is Piper maybe a little bit more than the other two, but the three of them don't really need a knockdown to do their job. They can do a lot of damage without a knockdown, apply that Anomaly, and then get a little bit extra when you do get a knockdown. But that's one thing that's great about them, is that they don't necessarily have to work with a stunner, and they can also work excellent with Caesar, who's not a full-on dedicated stunner, but someone that can be good on stun. Now, getting to the last in the Anomaly DPS, we have Piper, and you could think of Piper as kind of like a budget Jane Doe. If you have Jane Doe, I would certainly recommend building her first before Piper, because the two of them do a lot of the same things. But let's say you didn't roll for Jane because you were saving your polys, you lost your 50-50 or whatever else, then I would highly, highly recommend building Piper, and I would not underestimate this character. Piper's very powerful, she's very damaging, she's very good in those Anomaly teams like I was just talking about, and she's very good together with Grace, especially if you don't have the Jane Doe. Alright, next up we're going to get into the stun category, and we're going to talk about some of the good stunners currently in game. So we have, first off, Lycaon, who is the ice stunner, and also one of the best teammates of Ellen. So if you're building that ice team, or if you have the Ellen, then obviously Lycaon is highly valued. However, he's also excellent on his own as just a generic stunner. He doesn't necessarily need to be in an ice dedicated team. He can be in any team, Fizz, Ether, Fire, Ice, it really does not matter. And he's going to be excellent at his job of stunning. The trickiest part about him, which is not really that tricky at the end of the day, is that he has a little bit of a learning curve in how he uses basic attacks. But once you master getting the charge attacks and consistently, you're going to find that this guy is one of the fastest stunners in the entire game. Talking about fast stunners, we also have Qingyi, and one thing that's great about Qingyi, and like Lycaon too, one thing that's nice about the two of them is that they're very good at stunning with limited gear. Now, I don't really know who does more damage between the two of them, but I find that with Qingyi, it's pretty easy to get her to really do a lot of hits. So if you build up her crit rate, even if you just get her to the 40s or the 50s, she's going to be getting a lot of extra damage just because of the multitude of hits that she puts out there. So not only is she very good at debuffing the enemy, getting you extra damage on knockdown, that's one thing that's really nice, that she can get you extra damage and extra percentage on knockdown, but she's very fast at stunning herself. Now, coming up to the next one, we have Koleda, and they put Koleda at tier 0.5, which I guess, I would probably put her the same tier as Lycaon, to be honest, but I get why they put her here. So Koleda's thing is that she stuns a little bit slower than the rest of the squad. In fact, I think she stuns slower even than Anby. But to compensate for that, she does very good damage, and she adds on a bit to the fire anomaly. She's going to be a very good teammate, especially for Bernice. So when Bernice comes out, if you've got that Koleda, make sure you're building her, because the two of them are going to work together excellently. Now, going on to the free-to-play hero, one of the free-to-play heroes, we got Anby, and she's an excellent, excellent stunner. She's one of the most underrated characters in the game for people that I pulled early and have S-rank stunners, because a lot of people that don't play Anby a lot don't understand the power. But Anby is someone that's capable of stunning very quickly. She's capable of, as long as you put an impact item in her slot 6 and an impact W engine, she's capable of working with very trash discs. Okay, she doesn't even need excellent stats. She doesn't need very good damage stats. All she needs is impact. Give her enough impact and give her a little bit of survivability, and she can get the job done. She's very good on that Team B type of squad, when you have a Team A with a lot of powerful characters, but your Team B does not have very good discs. That's the time to call on Anby, where she's going to really take care of you. Alright, now getting into the supports, we got the new character Caesar, who I'm sure you're all waiting for me to talk about, and Caesar is excellent at everything. Okay, she's very good at buffs, she's very good at debuffing and defense shredding the enemies, she gives a huge shield to your characters as well as a 1000 attack damage bonus, and she's also pretty good at stunning too. So you could think of her kind of like a hyper Lycaon or a hyper Qingyi. She doesn't stun as quick as those two characters, but what she adds to the team as far as survivability and damage, but really, really survivability, okay? Not just that 1000 attack that she gives and the defense shred, but the survivability that she adds to the team is second to none. Your teams, even with weaker characters and guys that are only level 50, are going to be able to survive some of the toughest shield defense with Caesar on your side. Alright, next up, we're going to talk about the next set of buffers, and notice that there's not a lot of S ranks here, which really goes to show you how powerful some of these A rank supports are. So we have Nicole, Nicole was kind of in the top before there was Caesar. The same thing with Soukaku, who we're going to talk about soon. The only reason that these have been knocked down a tier, the two of them, is really because Caesar exists, and Caesar as an S rank does a little bit more damage, does stun, which they're not great at doing, and some other things. But having said that, Nicole is the best, or one of the best free characters that the game gives you. She's got a little bit of defense shred in her kit. If you get her to C6, then she also got crit rate that she adds to the squad too. And she buffs the team as well. So she buffs the squad, She shreds defense of the enemies, and she's overall very strong. The main thing that's annoying is that her defense shred does not last as long as the defense shred of some other characters. It only lasts around 3.5 to 4 seconds. So you may have to consider that in your rotations, whether you want the max damage. So sometimes the max damage for your rotation, whatever team is going to be, will be letting Nicole do her EX, or letting Nicole do her chain combo, tagging you the damage dealer, and just letting the damage dealer do the full rotation. And sometimes it's going to be smarter to tag Nicole back in, let her do another EX, and then finish that damage dealer's rotation. You're going to have to figure that out based on your team, and these are part of the reasons why Nicole is only A rather than S when we consider Caesar and her buff lasting 60 seconds or until the shield runs out, which is crazy. Now we also have Seth, who's another shielder and buffer. He's another kind of ghetto Caesar, but his main thing is that he's not as big on buffing attack stats of your team. He's bigger on buffing Anomaly. So that makes him also very good with Jane, just like Caesar is, very good with Piper, and very good with Grace. So if you're specializing in one of those three characters, or multiple of those three characters, then you should highly value Seth on your team, because the plus 100 Anomaly boost that he gives is very strong, and he also gives your team a very good survivability, if not as good as what Caesar gives. Now we also have Soukaku. Now Soukaku is a very good buffer who's also very strong in the ice team. If you have an Ellen, then you have high incentive to build Soukaku. She's one of the best A ranks in the entire game right now. If you do not have Ellen, then the incentive to build Soukaku is a little bit lower, and that she's a good support, but she's not the only one that does the job that she can do. In fact, Lucy might be a little bit better for your team if you're not specializing in ice. That being said, if you are specializing in ice, you should be building Soukaku unless you're playing like a Caesar on that ice team instead of something like that, which most people probably, their account is not that deep. I would go for the Soukaku. She's very powerful. All right, we got 3 left, guys, in the supports. Now we're going to talk about Lucy, and you might have Lucy, I believe, on the next banner. You're going to be able to get copies of her, too, which is pretty nice. One thing that's great about Lucy is that she's got the little minions that follow her around and do a little bit of passive DPS, which is pretty awesome and a great way to utilize her. She also buffs your team's attack, and she's the type of character that does not need to stay on the field very much. So because she doesn't need to be on field that much, she can come in, toss an EX move, pass on her attack buff to the next character, and then get the heck out of there. If you're fortunate enough to have her C6, it's recently fixed too, so that it does more damage and not less damage than it did before. So you're going to have that C6 out there. The board is going to be dealing extra damage in the middle of your damage dealer's attack rotation, and overall, it's going to work real excellent. In fact, I kind of would put Lucy in the same tier as these other supports. I know it's weird to have 4 different A supports, but above a S support, but I kind of would put Lucy above them a little bit. Anyway, next up we have Rina, and Rina is another one that buffs your squad. She's also very good at shock, and she's got some little minions too. But the thing that's the most annoying about her is that her buff only lasts for, I believe it only lasts for 8 seconds unless you get M1. So the thing about Rina is that if you have the M0 Rina, she's still very good, but her rotation is a lot more strict. You're going to have to tag her in more often, and she's going to require a lot more EX bar. But when you have the M1 Rina and you have that extra time on the buff, then she gets even more value. She gets stronger. In fact, I will put her up a tier, and I'd put her, in that 0.5 tier if you have the M1. So keep that in mind with Rina. I'm not saying that you should not play her if you have her, because she's an S rank buffer. That's great. She's got good stats, and as the game goes on and as more stuff gets added, she's going to have more potential. But if you have an M1 Rina, if your account just rolled that when you got lucky and you just got 2 Rinas while rolling for your event characters, you should certainly play her, because the M1 Rina is like double the strength of the M0 Rina. Really powerful, so keep that in mind. All right, last but not least, we finally have Ben. And Ben at C6 is very powerful, especially in shield defense. So even though you see him here at the bottom at T2, do not sleep on him. If you don't have 2 stunners, let's say you only have Anby on your account as your only stunner, because the way the rolls went is that all you have is DPS all over your account and Caesar and things like that. Well, guess what? Ben is capable of stun. He's not the fastest stunner, but he's very good at it. And because of the way that his special works, he gives your team good survivability. He also has some potential with Bernice too, because he's fire. So let's say, again, if you have on your main team, you've got a good stunner, but your second team doesn't necessarily have stunning, that's great. Well, he can definitely help Bernice out, help her proc her Anomaly, and he can also defend Bernice too, while allowing Bernice to do all her passive damage. So even though he's here in the T2, I would still value the Ben, and I would say that even though tier 2 here in general is the cutoff, a lot of these characters are very good and very strong, so make sure to try them all out. Now, I got a couple more tier lists for you before I go. This one is from Mobalytics, and you'll notice that it's very similar to the tier list that we just saw. The only difference is that they added an extra tier to put Billy below. So I did mention that I thought Anton or Corin were more worth building than Billy was. If you notice here on this tier list, they agree because they put Billy here kind of in his own tier. That doesn't mean that Billy is useless. C4 and C6 Billy are very good damage dealers in the Fizz. It's just that there's many other Fizz damage dealers that you could choose first. Nekomata, Corin, who's also a Fizz damage dealer, Piper, who's Fizz Anomaly, Jane. You have a lot of options here in the Fizz, which is why he's pretty low down the tier list as far as characters that you could pick. But again, I'm not discouraging you from choosing the Billy. If you have a C4 or C6 Billy built up, have fun with them and enjoy it, because you're already in the bottom 1% of players if you're playing your Billy right now. Alright, this is the last tier list that I'm going to go through today. This one is from Game8.co, who also likes to cover Mega 10 games, Persona, and that type of thing. And one thing that I like about them is that they have an overall tier list. Although the DPS, debuffer, and supporter tier list is pretty similar to the ones that we've already seen in this tier list, they've also decided to take Billy and put him in his own separate tier compared to the rest of the guys. But they kind of have combined all these A damage dealers into like a lower tier compared to the S guys, which kind of makes sense to me. One thing that I really noticed with these 1.2 tier lists, if you might have noticed it too, is that for the most part, everyone kind of agrees on who the best characters are as well as who the worst characters are. The placings in the middle could change here or there. Like here they have Rina at tier 1, which I agree with this a little bit more than Rina at tier 2 like we saw in the other list. But again, keep in mind that Rina really wants her M1. Almost more than anybody else on this list, M1 is really such a game changer for Rina. Anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed me talking to you a little bit about these tier lists and what I thought about them. Thank you for following the channel if you're new here, but also a lot of you are watching the channel and not following. So if you're new, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and tell me what you thought about the tier list as well as the various characters, and if this opened your eyes as to a character that was good that you may not have realized. See you later, everybody.